Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Apsara Karunaratne, and on behalf of the SARC Cultural Center, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the first session of the SARC monthly online talk series for the year 2026. So, by way of brief background, this year marks the third consecutive edition of the SARC online talk series, and since inception in the year 2023, we are proud to have hosted over 30 experts and eminent speakers from across the region, experts in the field of art and culture from South Asia. So we have with us today Mr. Vimukthi Jayasundara, who will speak on cultural diplomacy and independent cinema in South Asia. So Mr. Vimukthi Jayasundara is a distinguished Sri Lankan filmmaker and multidisciplinary artist whose work spans feature films, experimental cinema, video installation, and performance. His films have premiered and competed at leading international festivals, including Cannes, Venice, Locarno, Berlin, and Toronto. His directorial debut, The Forsaken Land, won the Camera d'Or Award at the Cannes Festival in 2005, making him the first Sri Lankan director to receive the award. Between Two Worlds, his second film, was selected for the international competition at the Venice International Film Festival in 2009, while Mushrooms was screened in the Quanzan de Realizatore in Cannes in 2011. In 2005, he was awarded the Kalakirti, Sri Lanka's highest national honour for arts and culture. He holds a postgraduate diploma from Le Fresnoy Studio National des Arts Contemporains, France. His artistic practice is deeply grounded in exploring the relationship between inner experience, nature, and transcendence. So this afternoon, he will speak on cultural diplomacy and soft power, the role of independent cinema in South Asia. So the structure of this session will be Mr. Jayasundara starts his talk, and maybe after about 30 to 45 minutes, we will open the floor for discussion, question and answer. So in the interest of time, we request our audience to send their queries, questions or comments in the chat box. Over to you, Mr. Jayasundara.
Good afternoon. Thank you very, very much for inviting me for this talk on one of my very favorite subject, cultural diplomacy and soft power, and the role of independent cinema in South Asia. As a filmmaker, I've been working for last almost 21 years in Asia, in South Asia especially. I studied in India and I worked in countries like Nepal. I have a very close relationship with Bangladesh, and I'm quite familiar with the whole South Asian cinema. So because of that, I think this talk going to be a very interesting from my side to talk about cultural diplomacy and soft power in our region. So let me share a PowerPoint presentation, then I can take you through that. So then once I finish my talk, we can open for questions and answers. Okay, so usually when we call anything in diplomacy, we found some kind of a influences and kind of directly connected to the governments and certain kind of power that related to the government and the structure of the government. But here, when we speak about cultural diplomacy and soft power, it's go beyond that. It's more about people to people connections and how we connected with our heart into another country, how we connected through our heart to another nation of the people of that country or the people of that nation. So when defining terms of cultural diplomacy as a practice, the first of all, it's important to recognize resources, the resource in that country or a nation as a potential energy for creating culture. So, for example, the resources of a potential of energy in that country to create culture. And in that regard, in whole South Asian countries has that such a vibrant, beautiful culture, and that goes in thousands of years. So we will be able to produce many kind of cultural products that included cinema in a modern time. So basically, when you find resources as a potential energy in that particular country to produce art, it's important to understand exchange of ideas, information, and language is very important. And especially if a people around the world admire a country's film and literature and art or commitment to democracy, we can call a resource of power. That means that if a world around a whole world appreciate what we do in our world, our countries, and then we promote and we're proud about it, that is potentially the resource, or that we can call this of power that we are aiming to promote ourselves to the world. In this regard, we are very rich in our nations are very rich in that caliber, because we have been producing cinema as an independent art form for a long time. At the the very first Cannes Film Festival recognized independent cinema through our region, and Pathal Panchali was one of the very first film that represent whole South Asia to the very first Cannes Film Festival. The Cannes Film Festival is an important festival in a global platform because it recognized author cinema, the cinema that speak by the author, in against commercial films. So that's very important to recognize in our part of the world. So when it comes to cultural exchange, we see sometimes we see as a nation's branding, and also authentic cultural sharing in the other hand. So the nation's branding that goes almost within that we can sometimes call propaganda, and it can be also we are trying to market ourselves as a country through the tourism, and also through sometimes sports, and a lot of marketing activity that can be done through nation's branding. But here I speak about authentic cultural sharing. That's mean that true artists, true humanistic form of expression from our own heart and our own culture that can express through cinema. That is what we call independent cinema, or author cinema, or art cinema. So in a way, it's a true cultural diplomacy is usually a two-way street, because one side we promote our countries through branding that has a maybe more visibility in regard to let's say let's take an example as a commercial cinema, that we see the potential of traveling through a market, that when you switch on our streaming platforms, Netflix or whatever, that we automatically we in tune with the commercial cinema, mainstream cinema. But the other hand, the art cinema, the author cinema, that it's not promoted very much through the market, because there is a bit of a appeal from the market. There is something that they call when it comes to art cinema, there's a distance from the market, because market does not really promote art cinema naturally. So we have to promote, a country or a nation has to promote as an organic expression of our own country. So that's why it's kind of a bit of a conflict between these two way of promoting a country. So it's very clearly that we have like, for example, in Sri Lanka, we do promote a lot of cricket to the world as a soft power, but that's very good. But it's very complicated when it comes to promoting an independent cinema, because there is a lot of issues, because there is an artist behind the work, and sometimes the artist can express organically, or sometimes they may even say things which can be a little bit disturbed by other factors. So then we are always in the questions of, are we promoting this as a nation's branding, or are we proud about saying this, whatever that comes out of independent cinema. But the matter of fact is that it is important to understand, when the artists express very genuinely and honestly, the world appreciate that, and regardless of a country, sometimes regardless of the country or the nation that where it can come from, it more recognized as a human, a form of expression. That's so important that one can understand that importance of promoting art as an organic way of expressing human desire, human experiences. So therefore, it's very important to keep a kind of a natural approach to cinema, art house cinema, when it comes to promoting as a diplomacy, as a soft power diplomacy. So it's important when authenticity and the credibility when it comes to art cinema. We usually, a lot of artists in our region or anywhere else in the world that matter, it's bound to be that they go and look for something that are very organic and authentic for themselves to express. and sometimes it can be a critical, it can be a some kind of social contexts that can maybe unconventional, and also it can have some political backdrops that sometimes not want to talk about. These are there, but it's important to recognize cinema as an independent art form, that the desire to express those honesty through the form of art as a authentic and credible way of looking at a country, rather than looking at censoring or keeping it as a distancing, create a distance from the world. So when we come to popular cinema usually it's a very on the shallow, on the surface, that do promote the country, but it's more on in a ideologistic base, because what we like to see the rest of the world, and then when it come to what we like to see the world through us, and we promote, usually we promote very stereotypes that is not organic, that is not very pure from our own hearts, and we know that. And sometimes some of the films that we know that are very big commercial successful films are actually been not shot in our region. It may be shot in New Zealand or Switzerland or other countries. So, but it portrayed something else than what truly who we are, inside of our own self. So because of that, it's very important to recognize independent cinema, independent art form as a cinema, to build trust, and we speak for the nation as a true sense. We don't exaggerate things ourselves. We don't look at as a completely marketing or a branding, and living in a kind of fairy tales of just pure tourism purpose. So it's more like we are promoting something very organic, very very true to our own self. So these are the great sample in the recent past. We had a wonderful success through independent art cinema. I think some people have seen this film largely in South Asia, but when it comes to release of these films are not that highly regarded, because the commercial network of showing films are maybe not encouraging films like ours to be screened, much. So all we imagine as light, which this film by Payal Kapadia. It's a wonderful film. It won a Cannes major award in Cannes Film Festival. That speak about very ordinary three women in Mumbai, and then they goes to south of India where they come from originally. After they're having a lot of issues in the city, so they go back, and then they find themselves a kind of discussing about their own inner struggles, the desires, and the whole approach of the film is very organic, and it does not trying to glamorize or to promote something that is not there. It's promoting something that is very organic to themselves, something that is true to themselves. So it's a beautiful film. And the second example that I could give it's a Sambala. It's a Nepali film by Min Bahadur, one of our good friend, and it went to the Berlin Film Festival, and it won an award there. So these are and then the films talk about the Tibetan Nepalese stories. It has a beautiful story, look like a bit of like a fairy tale, but also it's promote what Nepal has Himalayan soft power, the Himalaya as a region and as a beautiful region. It's promote that as well. And then also my own film, Spying Star, was premiered in Busan International Film Festival, and that speak about the modern day, what we go through right now, especially the technology and the devices that are actually trying to dominate us through the artificial intelligence. So, and these three films, I can take it as example of a soft power movement for last few months within our region. These three films, if you look at it, these three films are does not trying to promote, let's say our region is as something that is, let's say if you take it a marketing point of view of somebody branding a country, they would try to say, we are proud about that. And there's no such a thing in this film. The messages are very organic and pure in that sense. It talks about human conditioning, what human as a human being go through. So in that sense, very, very organic. So, when it comes to cinema as a soft power, it we need to understand that it's very important to recognize artist as an independent agent, so the artist can express without any censors, any disturbance. That's the number one factor. We I know in our not only our region and many regions, that we bound to think that when it's come to branding of a country, something that larger than the piece of art, we bound to think that we could somehow we can control the artist and we can get what we want through that person. But that is a big mistake. That is a big mistake, and it's very important that we give a utmost recognition to the artist and let the artist express and come out something that is true to herself or himself, and to express. So that expression has a universal value that can be being screened or shown anywhere in the world. And there are a lot of platforms around the world for that. And then the whole world recognize that. That's so important. So that therefore the transforming human being is a part of when an emerges to transform human being is an important factor. And cinema is called seventh art, so it's a product in a marketing point of view, but yet it's more of we need to see that it expresses true of ourselves and as a human being, with about our desires, our future, our conflicts inside us. So all that has to be there. And when it comes to popular cinema, and it's we know that the fact is a dream factory that create beautiful loud movements, but yet it's once it's being put in the screen and it will be there for some time and then disappear, and then that's it, and people will forget and move on. But when it comes to independent cinema, independent art, that stays with people for a long time, even it's traveling very slowly to people, because it doesn't have much of a space in the market. It travels slowly, but it will stay with people, and it will stay in universities, in libraries, and various forms now on many platforms on a digital base. So that will stays, and for years that stays. And even if you start recalling any of film that you remember, some of the art films you remember very well, and it being played again and again. But when you start thinking about popular film, and that's in the same way, it maybe have disappeared and vanished at the time when you look at back. So therefore, I recognize, and I've loved I love diplomatic community, the organizations to recognize, the authority to recognize independent cinema or author cinema and art cinema as a true way of expressing our own self and to be promoted as a soft power to the rest of the world. So for myself, as being a director and a writer, I made last 21 years I've been working as a filmmaker, writer, filmmaker. So my first film, Forsaken Land, that speak about Sri Lankan war, and we had the 30 years of war, and that ended in 2009 in the northeast of the region. And this film expressed it talks about no war, no peace situation where there was a ceasefire at that particular minute. So I went to film it, and I shot a story where how ordinary human being, not in a hierarchy, not in a people with power, but people who has less power, who in getting an impact on that land, where this is the fight for land, basically. So there are people who suffered from both sides, and they go through hardship, and still they won't live, and they have a lot, like anybody else in the world. They do have desires to live, and what they go through, and this film was a very successful story, and then it went to Cannes Film Festival, and we won a major award there. And since then, I started having a lot of contacts in the whole South Asian region, and I was invited to make a film in Kolkata. So I went there, and I cooperated with a lot of people, a lot of artists there, called Chatrak, and it also went to Cannes Film Festival and had quite a good success. And that's my first South Asian experience as an artist, that coming from Sri Lanka, going to India and to Bengal, West Bengal, and making a film in a different language, that the Bengali I don't understand, but I made a film in Bengali. So through that I understand there is a between our culture, between our countries, there's a genuine desire to make cinema that we all can and relate to. And these films are, and the Chatrak is actually, it made it like in 2011. It still is playing. It's still a lot of people want to see it. A lot of people want to share it and to discuss. And after that, I made other films that related to South Asia, and I've been teaching cinema in different schools in South Asia. I went to Nepal and I did some classes there, master classes, and also India, and also went to Maldives, and I have very close contact with Bangladeshi filmmakers. So we as a South Asian community of filmmakers, we are always in contact, and always we do something that sometimes invisible, and many of the institutions are not uh, recognize us as a potential of a soft power entity. So there, but we do promote our culture, we do promote our countries to the rest of the world, and we do travel a lot of. Sometimes we South Asian filmmakers, when we travel to foreign countries, outside of our regions, we always stay together and we always share our ideas together, because we have so much things in common, and we do cooperate in many ways, in many artistic fronts we cooperate together. So after that, after making my own film, and I realized that it's important to help young filmmakers in our region, in South Asian region. So that's why I start producing film. So my first production experience in a South Asian country, Red Suitcase, is a Nepali film, and then the last year I produced another film from India, Secret of Mountain Serpent. Both the film went to Venice Film Festival and had been gained a lot of recognition throughout the world. And this recognition is for the region, and it's for us, it's for South Asian region and for South Asian artists. So when it comes to co-production, it's very difficult for us, to raise money within our region. And most of us has to look forward money from outside of our region, thanks to some of the European funders, and they are keen on producing our film. So both the film actually we produced through that kind of a support from the Europe. However, it's important to recognize within our region, if we have such a institutions or funding agencies to support independent art, independent cinema in this case, to support filmmakers to bring their genuine stories. So even if you look at these two films, actually the stories are very unconventional, and you will never ever encounter these in the mainstream cinema. So it's very important. And one is from a young filmmaker from Nepal. The other one is a girl, and she did a wonderful film, and the film speak about something never heard of before, and especially coming from a very very feminist angle of a story. So it's very important that to recognize those filmmakers, especially in our region, and to help them to continue. And that's not it's very complicated right now, because what even with the support of rest of the world, Europe or elsewhere, we may able to produce film, but to continue as a filmmakers in our region is very hard, and we do not have a lot of support system. And so therefore it's very important the institutions to authority to see this as a soft power ability, and to promote our region to the outside of the world, in order to help these young artists to continue of their work. So, and also I do mentorship and I do teach, as I said, and I also not only South Asia, but also I do teach in Japan and France sometimes. So, and it's always important to recognize young voices and young artists, and giving them a lot of freedom. And especially the world right now, the whole world is dominating through artificial intelligence. And we may be one day will figure out that we have lack of ideas in the world, because the human being stopping producing something that are very dear to them and their expressions, and they are something organic to them. The new ideas, it only will generate through AI, but that means that's accumulated information that are already been fed to these machines will replicate and reproduce same ideas and again. We may have run out sometime ideas. So it's very important to keep original voices, where that human being can only expresses these ideas, that can also helpful to AI to keep maintain these things. So that's Right now we have a overcluttered ideas of we are over excited about artificial intelligence, so we may have a tendency to forget about artists and genuine artists and filmmakers and and we can even give a complete we can be forgetful about them, and then we will ignorant about them. So it's important to support them, recognize them, and to bring them into kind of a discussions, and to create a platform for them to express their ideas. Therefore, it's our responsibility to produce and to show this film. And therefore, it's very important having international film festival, at least for our region, SARC Film Festival in our regions, and to bring these films together and showcases at least annually, and also to bring our audiences. That we do have in our region, we have a lot of art house audiences, people who are familiar with art house films. We should give them a chance to view these films. Sometimes these art house audiences in our region, they usually watch films from outside of the region, mostly films, independent film, but come from Europe or Latin America or other regions. But sometimes we do not have enough space for our regions, films from our region in these art house platforms, even in film festivals. So we need to recognize and to give importance to art house film showcasing in our region. Yeah. So the beyond the screenings, and this organization is called NetPack. It's a promotion of cinema in the whole Pacific Asia, but its actually headquarters was in Delhi. NetPack is a wonderful organization. It's promote region cinema, and it but right now this organization is not really functioning into that high end, because there's support system has been completely diminished. There's less and less support for these kind of promotions. So it's very important to create a platform there, we can promote this South Asian cultural product, including independent cinema, to the rest of the world. And we know the fact that when the film is traveling to another country, if you don't create the context of that film, it seems like you completely losing the interest of that film. For example, we being all the time, we being giving a context of Hollywood cinema, that we are watching a lot of Hollywood cinema, because it create a kind of a context for us all the time. And so therefore it's very important to before the film goes to a country or to other outside of the region, to creating a context. So therefore it's promotional factor is important, and it through the literature, it through other maybe a media, so other things we need to promote it through film festivals. We have to promote South Asian filmmaking, South Asian art house filmmaking to the rest of the world. So therefore it's important to publish work to maybe magazines, or and social media network, every possible way we had to create a context before the film arrived, so then they're able to receive this film in a graceful manner. Because our region is as so much of a diversity. Sometimes when its film travels outside of the country, or country we can relate it to, but outside of the region, the audience may not be able to grasp what we've been talking about, because the context of this film, the cultural context, may be not so closely related to them, because we're so closely related to anything that Hollywood does it. But if the film is making in Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, or Sri Lanka, or even India, the cultural context can be completely a stranger to them. So that's important that we do promote beforehand, before the film comes. So we have to promote the context of our region. So there's also important factor in cultural diplomacy, in that sense of soft power, as if you're promoting independent cinema. So my hope for the future, my hope. Yeah, one thing is the cinema has to be recognized as a universal form of human complexity, and has to promote as a universal expression of humanity. And we go through a lot of complexities right now, and it's not only within the borders, but also with borders, and also with our own self as a communities. Various kind of complexities, and now adding more of AI dominated world, it'll create a more complexities, and it'll create a more tension in our history. Right now, what we experience in the world, it will create more complexities. So therefore, it's important to give a genuine chances, giving a space for artists to express. And this expression, we should take it very seriously, and then consider these voices as an organic way of promoting our culture, as well as to understand our culture and to recognize that their work as a genuine product of art. So therefore, I would love to see that our region is having a more collaborative effort in this regard. And I'm a prime example of a product of this in this nature in this region. I've gained experience in all part of South Asia as a filmmaker, and therefore I create a lot of beautiful friendship between filmmakers, artists, and but sometimes we do feel we are completely isolated, and what we do is not that much of a relevant to the authorities and the people. And we see some of the other countries, some of the regions, how they are trying to promote independent cinema with a different sense. So we feel kind of isolated, and we feel kind of neglected our own self sometime to, so it's important that the independent filmmaking keep a kind of a spirit in, therefore that we can exercise our work, do our work and regularly and functionally, we could contribute to the world of art. So, and I see that the collaboration can happen beautifully between South Asian context. We can collaborate I've collaborated with many other artists, as a writer, director, and a producer. And there are also many other collaboration can happen if you promote it, even in a small word. If you're giving a little bit of chance, a little bit of small window. There's absolutely no window right now. If you give a smaller window, it will be an impactful. It will definitely encourage the artists to come forward and start collaborating, because right now we have a large network of Asian artists always meet together, always talk together about our issues. So therefore it's important to recognize them and to support them. And finally, I want to say that the film that sometime when I make films in art films, and when we talk about the main criticism that are against us is the films are very slow. That is because we always look at cinema as a popular terms of production. So many of the popular films are very loud and very attractive. Of course, I understand, and that there's need for it. But when we look at art house cinema, when we want to tell the true story from our heart, from our regions, from our village, it has a potential of making it a slow, because it doesn't want to say anything louder. It has a expressing something in very silently. And when it's come genuine, you look at anybody, human being, what they go through, is their silent suffering, silence experience they go through. So we bound to make films quite slow in that terms. Because of that, we call a kind of category of people who make slow film. But our films, not like in a big film comes and just disappeared. Our films can stay for a long time. It can stay sometime for many years. And some of my films that I've did 5 films so far, or 21 years, and these 5 films still in discussions in universities and libraries, especially in our region, and also rest of the world as well. So it's important that to understand, it is not slow cinema or independent art films are stay longer with us in compared to some of the big films. So at the end, anyway, and also we do want to think that these films are only promoted to festivals. There's a huge myth on that. I mean, we do also see that it's only promoting to the Europe. We say the European cinema has European cinema has a beautiful way of expressing it. It's beautiful cinema, but it does not mean that we are copying anything from Europe. It's just like we are trying something very similar, a Western way of doing it. No, those countries do films organically on their own countries in Europe. So they have a certain way of expressing it. It's not why slow, because it's a unique thing to the world. There's a fast track and there's a slow track of it. Yeah. So when it comes to slow cinema, it's not just European cinema is slow, and we bound to think that, we do feel like because of Hollywood cinema is very fast and it has fast rhythms, but we do see that European cinema is slower. But in that regard, we think that when we make films in our region, it's also slow that we think that we are catering into international platforms or festivals to through their support systems or whatever. That is not true. Slow cinema is general to the whole world, and anything in the world to be faster and to slow to see. Very contemplative, meditative experiences in cinema. That is very much in our part of our life, in day-to-day life, and anything that didn't happen to us in our life experience are sometimes very slow, and that's the way we recognize this slow kind of cinema. So because of that, we don't want to have a competition with faster films, but we'd love to recognize this as a slow cinema, as a beautiful way of expressing our own self come from this region, and to give that importance to us, and without labeling, and to reducing or limiting our resources, our finances and things like so. It's more giving recognitions to us. It's enough, and we could make things beautiful. So therefore, I would love to see the future how South Asia get together and understand the power of cinema, independent cinema, true cinema in that sense to me, and having giving a support, creating new platforms to build young filmmakers to support them to help them to carry their upcoming works, and also recognize very young, even to build young filmmakers, artists for the future. Yeah. So this is it for the moment for me. If there's any questions, I think I can answer. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vimukti Jayasundara, and thank you very much for sharing your reflections on how cinema in South Asia can position itself as cultural ambassador, and in your according how you termed it was like authentic cultural sharing through art cinema. So thank you very much for your insights. So now the floor is open for questions, Q&A, or comments from the audience. Yes, I think we have a question in the chat box. Well, in fact, there are two questions. The first one is you spoke about extensively about other independent filmmakers of South Asia and your past experiences interacting with them. Could you speak a bit more about the overall connectivity within this community? How do they work together, and what more could be done?
Yes. So with my own experience, I could talk about, this Nepali project I did, Red Suitcase. It's a filmmaker from Nepal. It's a first feature film. And then he approaches me with his two short film and alongside of the producer. So then I look at their short films, and I see there's a potential to make a first feature film. And the story was beautiful and a very provocative film. It can know but it's a very genuine story. So I thought it will be wonderful to make into a film. So then I kind of support first to, because I don't myself as a filmmaker, I don't have a way of investing money in a film, but I could bring attention from a different funders to these filmmakers. So therefore I kind of approaches some of the funding schemes in Europe, and also in South in Asia, Japan and Korea, and then give the and then I recommend the filmmaker to get the money to make film with these funds. So that's the financial factor, but I came as a producer. But apart from that, my own editor, Saman Elvitigala, joined as a editor of the film. So the filmmaker, the film director, writer, director come from Nepal, and the editor of the film come from Sri Lanka, and then they edited entire film together for almost 1 year, but they never met physically in one place, but they met online, and they work online and complete the film. So, and then finally they met in Venice Film Festival, when their film is being screened. And my second example of that is my one film Chatrak, and I went to Bengal and I went there and stayed for almost 3 months and did my research. I did my research on various subject, and then finally I figured out that I should stay with the one subject, which is modernization of West Bengal, suddenly appearing of a lot of mushrooming buildings and certain infrastructure development in that region. So, and along with that story, what will happen to the humans who are inhabitant on that particular land. So I was able to having a kind of a insight into these people and whoever that living in that land, and they're losing their lands to because of the high-rise buildings, and they have to work for this as a they are farmers before, and now they become workers of that same place. So how they lost their jobs, and then this is the story of very South Asian story. We do have whole South Asia has suddenly wanted to have in a modern image, and we are in a kind of fast track developing our nation. So therefore a lot of stories are emerging, from the workers, the farmers. So we are very much related to the same story. So I went there and I saw the story, and then I used a lot of actors, and they collaborated with me from West Bengal, and then we made the film together. So, and I mean, even though I work also, like countries like France, but here we are very connected. We don't feel even living in different countries. Through the subject, through the experience of subjects, we connect each other very well, very easily connected. And the other example I could Nidhi Saxena's film, which I produced. She's from Rajasthan, and she made this beautiful film, and I produced. So that film, she was shooting in Uttar Pradesh somewhere in highlands of in India. But the story was very connected to me. It could be happening in Sri Lanka, it could happen in Nepal, it could happen in Bangladesh. Story is very connected to us. The same story can happen anywhere. So because of that, we are very much connected. As artists, we understand it's the same story that even somebody from, some artist from Bhutan come up with a story. It will be similar story. We will have it in our part anywhere in South Asia. So so much connection that happens. Yes.
So, Mr. Mukti Jayasundara, we have some more questions. Question number 2 is on how would you assess the future of independent film in South Asia? How is the newly emerging creative landscape?
Yeah, I see a lot of potential. A lot of young filmmakers. We have a lot of institutions that are teaching cinema to youngsters. And largely in India, that every city has a film school, and also in other our nations, also in Sri Lanka, we have a lot of students are been trained to become a filmmakers. Also Nepal, I've been teaching in Nepal also, so I know, and Bangladesh especially, and also Maldives, Bhutan, and Pakistan. This so entire region has a lot of film schools, and a lot of institutions are geared to train filmmakers. So that means that definitely these schools will create filmmakers. A lot of artists will come out of. But unfortunately, that's the bigger truth in the whole film world, that it's not, even though you study cinema for 5 years, it's not give a guarantee you become a successful filmmaker. It's not. But what happened to them then? That's the big questions. What will happen to them? So if we have a kind of a platform that even they try to become filmmakers, that depends on their own strength, on strength of become a filmmaker, maybe not going to be fulfilled, and they will be disappointed they can't become an artist. But still, what they have gained over last their 5 years of their learning, we could use it as a soft power mechanism. So we could use them to, we can ask them to make film festivals, and we can create different platforms, or to create audiences, because these filmmakers, even the film students, even they don't make films, but they can create the culture of it. They can create the context of cinema. They can write, they can speak about it, they can organize various events, they can promote. So these things has to be recognized. It is not been recognized. There's no such a network of South Asian students of filmmakers or anything such as right now.
Thank you. So there is another question from Zahida Khatri. So she says, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. This is Zahida Khatri from Pakistan. I recall my father told me that earlier we have Sri Lankan film in our cinema. Also, we have exchange of actors. Why this trend is no longer in the practice?
Yes, that's a very good question. So when the cinema was being introduced to us, we had that collaboration because of the technology was such a exclusive thing. We have to travel to certain destination in our region, in the mostly in the very developed cities to go and make because they have a lot of labs to do films. Because of that, we used to travel. All our countries get together and make film because of the technology was such exclusive thing. But now what happened is that we have moved away from that. We have our own technology. We no longer need to collaborate and look for a technology because we have the devices that can be used as cameras or editing machines or whatever in our own way, because of digitalization. Because of that, we suddenly found independence, and we don't have to depend on other industry or big industry of productions, and therefore we kind of lost our connectivity with the others. So right now so because of there won't be any condition will come to us to make films together unless we decide consciously come together and make these things happen. So that is right now we don't need to cast an actor from that country, this country. We can cast our own actors in our own country. That's a chance. But having said, we have a lot of independence to make our own film. Yet to collaborating within the region is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. That could be the next step for us, but that has to happen consciously. We have to make that happen. So therefore, that's what I this whole talk is on that actually, as recognize this as a soft power. Therefore, there will be a recognition and there will be collaboration will put forward together as a very conscious effort, not because of the industry, not because of other factors, because we really want to make films together. To actor wants to travel any of this region and become an actor, very popular in that region, filmmaker, writer, songwriter, singer, whoever, so they would collaborate together. So that we need to create a platform, and there won't be industry demand for industry needs, industry issue for that to happen. We have to do it ourselves. We have to consciously do that. So I hope that there's a good question. I hope that the consciously will make an effort to do this. So
Yes. We have another question from Professor Arjuna Aluvihari. We are so glad to see him because he has been a long-standing friend of the SARC Cultural Center, Professor Emeritus Arjuna Aluvihari. So his question is, what is the value of producing films in an international language or have a translated version later in terms of widespread impact of the thinking? He uses single quote, thinking in the film. Can I repeat the question?
Yeah, please,
Yes.
please, yeah.
What is the value of producing films in an international language or have a translated version later in terms of widespread impact of the thinking in the film?
I think what he's saying is an international language. That means that the world recognized language, that for the English or French or something like that. Because when we say a language, we also recognize as cinema as a language, so they can be an misunderstanding here. But I understand what he's trying to say here is an international language. If you produce an international language film, that there's a thinking. So I didn't that part. What
in terms
exactly
of widespread impact of the thinking in the language in the film, thinking in the film.
So that means we will lose it as when we make a film in international language, the context of the cultural context and thinking of the.
I hope Professor Aluvihari is around to
Maybe
clarify.
he can come. Yes.
Yes. Until
Thinking
then, shall
as
we
in the
move?
language, or is more of
So the next question is from Kamakshi. She says, thank you for your insights. To what extent do you think the power of independent cinema is a result of the fact that it is uncorrupted by capitalist motivations?
Why do I think that? Is that what the question is?
To what extent do you think the power of independent cinema is a result of the fact that it is uncorrupted by capitalist motivations?
Because it stands for a, because it stays with an artist, as a genuine, sincere expression of an artist. The process of making a film in independent cinema is nothing to do with a production mechanism that we know as a industry. It's more of a, like, somebody come up with a story very organic to herself and himself, and writing it down for yourself. You check yourself the story, you read it to you, and you check with your villages, you check with your culture, and then once you want to produce it, you bring with yourself to the platform where you can get the production support to make it. So that until that minute, and when you start receiving money for your own productions, there is an artist who is behind it, who's working for the film. So because of that, that stays with organic. You stay with that story, true story, because the artist is there to safeguard the product, safeguard the film, you know without leaving it to an organization or a production arm, to dominate your work. So that stays as pure as possible in regard to that sense. What happened with when it's come to a bigger machine productions, there is the production need happens, that means the producer has a need of making a film. That means it can be again a finance or a propaganda or other means. So they come up with an idea to make a film, and then look for a story. They look for a story, they look for a director, they look for actors, and so it happens because of the producer need. But here is a complete opposite of that. There's a genuine artist. An artist is important. An artist come up with her own story, sometimes very personal story, herself or himself, to come up with that idea and then bring and work for many years. Sometimes, independent filmmakers are sometimes they make films, once in 5 6 years time. Sometimes it takes a very long process to get some support, and because the very less support even within our region or as from the world. So it takes a long time to produce such a work. So this is because, and then nobody wants to violate. Once you invest so much of time your own self to make something, like you have a screenplay written and developed, and you have certain aesthetics that you'd love to make it into a film, and you don't want to compromise it, or you don't want to sacrifice that, and you will fight until it made into a certain way that you really want to see, and that particular way you have make the film. So therefore it stay as pure and organic to an artist is.
Yes, so going back to Professor Aluvihari's questions, he has clarified that what he means by what he says is international language ensure the visuals and audio in the film are understood fully in all the situations in which the language is understood. So his earlier question was in terms of widespread impact of the thinking in the film. So what he means by that is international language ensure the visuals and audio in the film are understood fully in all the situations in which the language is understood.
Right. Well, I mean, I have a different view about it, with my all my respect to the professor. When it comes to art, cinema of art, we do not believe much of a language, spoken language, can do, because we are in the form of visuals. The visual has a lot of power. When we have powerful visuals that speak, that express, it doesn't need a support from any other medium of language or a sign or other sort of thing. It almost like become a music, or become like a different sense of communication. It doesn't need a language. If you look at a painting, if you look at an image, a photograph, so the film is in that sense, in original sense, it does not require a particular language. It does not mean that it can be an international or any local language. The film itself, it does not need a language. It has a language of speaking to people in an organic way. But I understand that we all have to speak, when we express things and emotions we go through, we are bound to think in language, of course, and we have a language, but that can be communicated even if you don't use international language into a film. You could definitely use subtitles, and then now it's much recognized way of expressing, because for example, you not believing some story happened in Bangladesh or Bhutan or Nepal or Sri Lanka or India, in a small village. All these people speak in international language, because for us the language is a colonial, it has a different connotations, right? Whoever that, we speak in English, but that's because that's a part of the education system that we have. So you can't expect, this language can be used as an organic way of expressing a story, when the language has a politics and there's a different play into it. So So therefore, it's important to understand that anything the local language, it can be subtitled. So that's the international language. It can subtitle into English, French, or any other international language. But the film itself, the people, the actor, they should speak the original language of that territory or the country or the story.
The next question is, I personally believe that there's a gap in Sri Lanka's mainstream cinema when it comes to using film as a tool of soft power in diplomacy too. In this context, what would you suggest can be done to encourage newcomers in the field to utilize independent cinema as a means of strengthening cultural diplomacy?
Yes. So it's very new that we discuss independent cinema or in the form of cinema as a soft power. It's a philosophy that we don't use in our part in our education, especially in the film school. Even the artists, they don't, especially the word the soft power and diplomacy. If you speak into an artist, they will be frightened about it. That's the number one factor, because the artist does not want to hear something that already they are part of institutions or they are part of another program or anything as such. They don't want it to hear. They like to be in isolated way, or they make films it very genuinely for themselves. They don't want to get any kind of intervenience coming from outside. So therefore it's important that the terms that we use here institutionally, but we should speak loudly enough for them to see there is such a thing, as they have to certain understand in certain way of a certain kind of negotiation can happen for them to make their film in order to reach a wider audience. And that support system can happen if this is cinema recognized as a soft power in our region. There will be definitely a support system will also come. There will be a finance will come, there will be a cooperation will come, and a support system will come. So, and within, let's say, at least we see as an exchange of art, in our region, we start collaborating with the other filmmakers, and this everything can happen only if we recognize institutional recognition first to happen. They have to say that this what we use is soft power diplomacy, and for artists to understand what we are trying to do, without making them fearful of what we are trying to say or try to negotiate. So they to tell them, okay, your freedom of expression be safeguarded. We are not gonna touch your expressions, nothing. But whatever you created, we will be able to bring it into a next level, next level of an audience, the reach. So then the collaboration will happen, and then so therefore we need to establish genuine trust between artists and institutions, and in order to support them.
Yes, so the next question is about AI and independent cinema. So, how do you see the role of AI in South Asia's independent cinema? Do you think artists should incorporate AI to their creative work, or do you think it is an aberration of creativity?
Well, whether you liked it or not, the AI already had dominated many things what we do in our life, day-to-day life. Therefore, definitely cinema, yes, of course. And anyway, cinema isn't a technological advancement of a human history. So we do see cinema as an tech, the medium of cinema actually technological. It is techno. It's not like writing poetry or painting. It's directly connected to technology. So therefore, definitely all our devices now, whether it's a camera, editing machine, whatever devices that we used in cinema, will definitely have an impact of AI. The AI will come and do something for us. So we have to collaborate with AI. There's no way that we can't just neglect and go. So, but the thing is, right now we are so excited about these technologies and we are moving with alongside of the AI. But there is a time that maybe will come, as I said earlier, the original stories. Right now, if you ask for a AI to write a screenplay, it will write a screenplay based on what we have fed the AI for the last 100 years. It will go and look for all what we have been telling a story, cinematic story, and it will copy the rhythm and it will track the certain pattern and then create a, it'll get the most common pattern of a storytelling, and so that become definitely mainstream story. So anything that AI will bring right now is a mainstream. That has already done and overdone, and there's nothing new of it. So because of that, AI is not a great tool in that sense for an artist to try something new, totally new. The artist will have more of a sense of making a story completely new and bring a new perception, new perspective within the context of their experience and their life, we'll have more story, beautiful story, different story. AI will not create that. But the collaboration with the AI will has to go together. Otherwise, cinema is definitely part of that. Yes.
Yes. So moving on to the last question. So she's Dr. Thanu Priya Majumdar. She says that her primary field of research is also soft power. Her question is, she asks question from a research standpoint. She says, when we look at the legacy of masterpieces, Khater Panchali, we see a perfect blend of virtue, moral humanism, and virtuous artistic excellence, which arguably laid the foundation for South Asian soft power globally. However, in the current era of content-driven algorithms and state-sponsored branding, it's like this virtue and virtuosity model is fading away. Do you believe that independent cinema can still survive as an authentic tool for cultural diplomacy, or is the pressure of the global market forcing filmmakers to sacrifice their artistic virtuosity? If I want to pursue a postdoc in this area, what points should I keep in mind? What would be your suggestion?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's a beautiful question. Yes, I think we are right now experience absolutely what you said, right? And entire market is shifting and moving away rapidly on one direction, which is much thinking about connectivity, technology, and AI, and so definitely independent filmmaking is not see as a main substance of soft power. They're bound to think something more important for sure for the future. So, but yet the artist, the artist cannot be forget by the human history. We have to work with the artist. The human becoming an artist, that's how can ever forget that? How can we ever think of that human are not artistic? The human are artistic. The human expressions are very important. We can't just ignore that. So because of that, the artist will stand, and therefore the art will happen, art will create. It will be in a struggle for a time being, but definitely in the future time, there will be a time come for us in the future. I don't know how long will last this whole nonsense, but one point of time will come in the future, and they will go back and ask artists to create and recreate. And the damage what we have been creating right now with the AI and the whole dominance of the market, all those things will have an impact right now. It'll definitely dominate the world. But the isolated incidents of artists will create some kind of huge impact. Suddenly you'll see artists emerging from very remote part of India, remote part of Bangladesh, Pakistan, elsewhere, creating an amazing piece of art and impossible to create by AI or other machines. Or the market will never recognize them immediately. But then you will see suddenly such a genuine desire to create, or the genuine voice that human can create themselves. The human, idea of being a human will come out beautifully, and then the people will start looking at those things as a eye-opening factor to go back and work with artists again. I think in context, your postdoc will be a great, and I hope that you will write and continue research on that. And if there are way that I can help, or my colleagues and that I know, and it'll be interest to take on this. Yes,
I think it seems there are no more questions, so we shall bring this session to a close. And thank you, Mr. Vimukthi Jayasundara, once again for accepting our invitation to deliver this talk today. And I also thank our audience for their engaging questions. So we look forward to meeting you at another similar engaging online talk, hopefully in the month of April. And I also invite our audience to like and share and join our page, and to be updated on the upcoming events and the call for papers and call for submissions for our publications. And so we hope to see you at a COC, a similar engaging discussion in the next month. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Jason.
you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Have a pleasant evening, everyone. Thank you.
You too.